Hey, everybody. This is Ken Tucker with Changescape Web, welcoming you to the Marketing Guides for Small Businesses podcast. Today, we're going to be doing a podcast episode that we were going to be doing last week. But because I didn't have much of a voice and Ian was traveling and getting some sun and fun and education injected into his body, we decided to just postpone that episode and do it this week. So here we are. And whether you love it or hate it, we're going to talk about it because these are things that have been bugging us when it comes to marketing and, the confusion that's out there in the marketplace amongst, some of our clients, but also some of our peers in the marketing community. So we just need to get this stuff off our chest. I'm going to start with Ian. One of the most overlooked things that I think way too many businesses forget about is building a referral marketing program. Uh, just an incredible powerhouse if you do it right. And you have to build a plan. You can't just willy-nilly have it happen. I mean, you may get lucky. Some people are more naturally inclined to do it than others. But for those of us that, really don't have a clue or haven't really thought about this before, how can a business create a referral marketing program?
Sure. Yeah. $1 million question, right? And just to go back to how you opened this, Ken, I think we have to thank our listeners for this therapy session of letting us cover some of these topics. And I think and the reason why we're doing this is these things bother us because we hate to see businesses either overlooking things that could potentially help them tremendously, or they're the people that they're relying on from a marketing perspective simply aren't covering these things because they're not
That's right.
in their repertoire, so to speak, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, these are great topics. Yeah, referral programs. I'll just give kind of a little bit of a start to this with my thoughts, and then I'll go into how people can build these out for their business. But one of the challenges with referral programs, I think, and why they're not widely used for a lot of businesses, is that it's not as simple as creating a product and selling a product, right? You're really trying to understand what is it that will motivate someone to refer to my business. And so that's kind of the core of what a referral program is you're trying to turn fans of your business into referral partners, so to speak. And there's different strategies and tactics to this, but they all start at the same spot, and that's and this is true with any kind of marketing. You need to define your goals. You need to truly understand what am I trying to achieve here. And this is actually pretty easy in that, to define your goals in a referral program. If you're starting at ground zero and you're not, whether you get kind of organic referrals right now, which is wonderful, you have no control in that. And so this is really about how do I bring a little bit more control into this type of part of marketing and try to encourage referrals in a new way. And so you have to have goals. And so again, if you're starting from ground zero, set some goals. Say, I'd like to see 10 referrals within the next 30 to 60 days or something like that. But make it a firm metric, something that you can measure. We'll get down to how you can do that a little bit more, or why you should do that. But you got to have goals, just like with any other marketing investment you do. And then the second one is equally strategic, is you need to identify your target audience. So out of all of your customers, because usually this is harder with a startup, it's easier with an existing business. Look at your customer base. Who refers to you now organically? Who just naturally refers to you? For some businesses, you might be in a referral networking group like a BNI or something like that. So look at those people. Who are your best referral partners already? Because what you want to do is try to duplicate that. You want to try to find similar traits in other customers that you have that are fans of yours, that you can then encourage through a program to create referrals on an ongoing basis. So things you should be considering are your ideal referral sources. You should be considering demographics. Are there particular demographic traits that are common amongst your best referrers? Are their behavioral traits? This might be buying behaviors. This might be how they interact with your staff. It totally depends on your business. It might be geographic demographics. If you're a home services business, there's so many things that this could be. But if you're like, if you imagine, your if you're a clothing store for young women, and you're able to see what kind of products are your most popular and profitable, and you have a loyalty program that allows you to actually track who's buying what, right? You might be able to see who gives you the most amount of share of wallet, and you might want to attract more of those. And so the best people to try to get referrals from are the people that are actually spending the most with you, and again, are your greatest fans. So that's just one of the things. And of course, interest falls into that as well. But developing an incentive program, right? So you can just ask for referrals, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's where I usually recommend creating a program where you're just asking for referrals. Because sometimes if you just equip people with some information and you guide them through the process of, hey, if you love us as much as it looks like you love us as a business, we are able to provide our service by the referrals that we get, and that's how our business is growing. And if you just educate people on that, and bring them in it as co-conspirators in your success, then that can be a really powerful thing. But then a lot of businesses actually have to create some sort of incentive program. For restaurants, it might be as simple as, if you bring in another family, another dinner party, if you bring in a group to this restaurant, we will give you a free dinner. We will give you a free dessert. It might be something on top of what they would be getting anyways, right? So just giving them a little bit of a thank you. We've even seen incentives where it's like a contest. So, if you will track the referrals, we'll get to tracking and measurement in a second, but assuming there's a tracking mechanism, you can say, for every referral, like if you're a dentist or something like that, you can say for every referral you bring in and that we're able to track and that person becomes a patient, you get entered into a draw for X. And usually it's not related to dentistry, it's related to something else, right? Something that people actually find desirable. And I think that's the key to the incentive part of it. Is this is not about you, this is about your audience, and you need to make it appealing to them. Just as an extra kick to, all you're trying to do is create that little memory hook in them when they see somebody else or think of somebody else that might benefit from your products or services. You want them to go, oh yeah, like not only will I feel good about sending people this way because I know they're the best at what they do, but I'm going to actually get the potential for some sort of benefit to myself. Making it easy to refer is huge. You want to make it as easy as possible. A lot of referral programs now are pretty they're simple yet sophisticated, if that makes sense. You can have things that are trackable online. So you can do things as simple as a form fill. So refer somebody to our business. Who did you refer? You enter the information, it's tracked in a database. You can use things like QR codes. You can use shareable links. There's all sorts of things. And then there's more sophisticated online apps that basically kind of can be a referral system unto itself for tracking, for incentivizing, for sending emails, for texts. There's all sorts of things like that now. The next thing I would say is foster a culture of referrals. So this is with your staff. This is also with your clients, right? Just remind them that that it's beneficial to everybody to refer people to you. If they love you, send some more people our way. And then measuring and analyzing results. So you have to track it somehow. That's, we talked about goals, we talked about target audience, but you have to be able to measure and track to understand how well it's working. And of course, with the entries of the referrals, I talked a bit about that's a form of tracking as well. But you have to be able to do that. And then once you are running a program for a little bit, you need to pay attention and refine it, make adjustments, optimize it, ask for feedback from your best referral partners, right? But by doing this, you can create a really great referral program that generates more and more business. And obviously, it's got a compounding effect, because the more people you get as referral partners for your business, the greater this social network of people referring to you grows. So it can be very, very powerful, and it's very inexpensive.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple of things. One is, I mean, you tended to talk, and not exclusively, but you tended to talk about customers being your referral partners.
Hmm.
But it's perfectly acceptable and actually very common and can be incredibly powerful to find businesses that maybe have similar clients that you have, or customers or patients, and develop a strategic partnership with them, and give them, the tools to make it easy to refer you, and vice versa. And they, obviously they may need to get something back out of it, so you got to figure out those details, but that can be really powerful.
That's a
Second,
great point.
Ian, I know you and I, we can actually put together referral programs for clients. We also had a guest on our podcast a while back, Virginia Muskies. This is her specialization. I mean, her job, and is to help people build effective referral marketing programs, and how can you take maximum advantage of that. So, let's see, Paul. You've been awfully quiet so far, so we're not going to let you off the hook. Um, this drives me nuts because so many people just chase social media marketing, is kind of, even to this day, as the holy grail. I think largely because it's pretty easy to get into it and start doing it, and it doesn't cost anything on these platforms to get started. But when it comes to driving sales and getting results, um, I wanted your thoughts on, is social media marketing really that top performing channel, or how does it stack up against, like, text marketing, SMS marketing, if you will, or email marketing? So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm always quiet because you don't learn while you're talking. But yeah, the social media thing, that's a good point, because it can work for awareness, but when you're looking at these different channels to drive sales, the short answer is it depends. We talk about the target audience, and part of that target audience is the demographics within your target audience. You need to think about that too, because if you're a plumber, your target audience is anyone that has a plumbing issue and can afford to pay you to fix it. So, but younger people are probably going to use different channels than older people, and this kind of ties in with what Ian was talking about. Is an older demographic is probably more likely to depend on referrals than a younger demographic. In the younger demographic, they might go on social media, but it's not the silver bullet that people think it is, because it's not intent oriented. When you advertise on social media, it's what we call disruptive advertising. You're just putting your stuff out there. People aren't necessarily looking for it. You're just putting your ad out there, and if they happen to be looking for your product or service, yeah, maybe they'll click on it. But if they're not, they're just going to scroll past it. Whereas, a paid advertising channel like Google Ads, that's intent oriented. People, if they go to Google and look for plumber to fix a broken pipe, obviously they're looking for it. So SMS marketing, text messaging is really good, because it has a high open rate, and it's really good. Matter of fact, we have a client that is an automotive repair, and if he's slow, he'll blast out a text message about, we have a special on oil changes or whatever. And I think he said last year he drove something like $18,000 in business just by doing that.
Yeah.
I'm slow. I'm going to send out a blast and give a special on oil change or whatever it is. And, he drove a lot of business doing that. So in text message marketing or SMS marketing can be really good. And email marketing, it still has the highest ROI of any channel. Okay. A lot of, everything's dead depending on who you talk to. Email marketing's dead. Everything's dead. Just ask the right person. They'll tell you.
Yeah.
But it still has the highest ROI. But with that being said, and we've seen this a lot lately because these email delivery platforms, SMTP providers, I'm not going to go into that, but they're getting a lot more strict because of spam. So you have to make sure that your list is clean. You have to maintain your list. If we're working with someone that they have a huge list, but it's old and they got flagged. They were doing some text message marketing and they got flagged because they never bothered to verify the phone numbers and they were sending SMS messages to landlines, which is generally not a good idea. You usually don't want to do that. And they got flagged and they're like, well, what happened? It's like, well, you're sending text message to landlines. You're not supposed to do that. Okay. You have to go through and verify this list. And it's like, look, I know you have like 5,000 contacts. So maybe start by, you have to know who your current customers are. If they haven't done business with you in the past 6-7 months, get rid of them or reach out to them, make that list, reach out to them separately. I know this isn't exactly what you asked, but it's all part of it,
Oh, sure.
So, but yeah, I don't think social marketing, let's go back to it. Depends on your industry as well. If you're in a lifestyle type business, and we've talked about this before, if you're doing things that people like to brag about, like they go to the gym and, hey, I did 500 push-ups. Okay. So social media might be a good platform for you. But keep in mind that it's still not intent oriented. And I think that part of the equation is really important. So definitely, yeah, SMS and email marketing are always going to outperform social media marketing. So you really have to look at your target audience and the demographics. And yeah, you might have to be on all three. You might have to use SMS and email and social media because your target audience, the demographics might be on all three of those channels. So I'm not saying to exclude any of them, but I agree, Ken, with what you said about social media. It's not like some kind of magic bullet out there that's going to solve all your advertising channel problems.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of group these three together because they're really, they should be permission based, right? I mean, people like your page, they follow you, or whether it's Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or whatever, they're saying, okay, I'm interested in getting your content. And ideally, I mean, absolutely, you better be using email marketing and text marketing to people who've opted in, who truly want to get your information. If you're not doing that, you're going to get yourself in trouble really fast. And so I think that's, a lot of people have probably gone out, they do the easy thing, right? I mean, a lot of people don't know any better. So it's like, well, I've got 400 emails. Let me blast it all out and see what I get. They don't clean them. Email addresses go bad really fast. So you have to constantly clean them. Depending on how you send that out, your email service provider or your email system is not going to like a lot of the stuff that you're just naturally going to go do.
Yeah, and make sure you have an unsubscribe link in your email and a way to stop text messages, because if you don't, right, people are going to start marking your stuff as spam, and that's bad.
Well, and the other key thing that I don't, I mean, when you look at text marketing, it's like 90+% of all texts are opened within the first 3 to 5 minutes. Nothing is better than that. But if your audience isn't on, using a smartphone and doesn't really want to receive text and haven't opted into those lists, it's not going to do any good, right?
Right.
Email open rates for truly opted in lists where people want to be getting that information. I mean, you could expect open rates of 25, 30% is not uncommon, maybe even a little bit higher. Social media right now, if you're just posting organically on social media, you're lucky if you're getting 4% reach of the people who said that they want to follow you or like your page. So, I mean, it's pretty simple, and again, we're in an omni-channel world. So we're not advocating pick one over the other. I think you have to maybe rely on all three of these and do them smartly together. But yeah, it just drives me nuts because I think, there's also a great temptation with a lot of people that say, it didn't really cost me very much to send a text, or an email tools are usually relatively inexpensive, or they may even just try to send it from their Gmail, which is never a good idea.
Yeah, I
And
quickly mark those as
en masse, to a bunch of different people. Look, just because it's free doesn't mean it's the right thing or the best thing or even a smart thing to do. So I wanted to get that off my chest.
Well, and what you said about earlier about social media, it's free. It doesn't cost much to get started. Social media is quickly becoming pay to play. I mean, they make money off their advertising, and they are gonna. We've talked about this with Facebook that the organic reach has dropped dramatically because they're losing subscribers faster than they're getting them, so they have to make money, and they want you to pay to run ads. They're not in business because they're a charity.
True. All right, Ian, let's talk a little bit more about email marketing and the metrics that are associated with that. Because again, and social media is the same way. There are a lot of metrics that make it sound, oh, cool, this is really exciting. But they're really pretty misleading and probably should be ignored. So what are your thoughts on those misleading metrics and the ones that should be ignored when it comes to email marketing, and what maybe should people really be paying attention to?
Yeah. I'm going to start this conversation about this in answer to this question, Ken, in a similar way that I think in one of the other Things That Bug Me podcasts that we did, it was about SEO metrics, right? And you had framed it in a similar way about what misleading metrics should we avoid, which ones should we pay attention to. And I think so our listeners understand, I think all metrics have value to some extent, and it depends on your level of involvement and what it is that where your decision making needs to be involved. So what I mean by this is, and I know you agree with this, so it's not something new to us, but for our listeners, I would call them like top tier metrics and lower tier metrics. In the top tier metrics, if I'm the owner of a business, what I really care about is that we are consistently emailing our database of clients, patients, customers, prospects. How many people are actually opening those emails? How many people are clicking through on any links that are within those emails? What the conversion rate is? What the bounce rates are? Unsubscribe rate, and some of those, like as the business owner, I actually only care about how many people are receiving our emails every month, right? That's pretty much all I need to care about. If I'm the marketing manager within that business or an agency running the email marketing for that particular business, I need to be paying attention to all of the metrics that will be either warning signs that our content is not resonating with the recipients, that there might be severe deliverability issues, like we're constantly being put into spam folders, bounce rates are skyrocketing. That would then be an identifier to us that, hey, there's a red flag, something is happening and we need to resolve it. But again, it depends on your involvement in the business and how much you need to pay attention to those, right? you know, some metrics that are, and even I should have mentioned in kind of those top tier metrics, unsubscribe rates, even though those can sometimes be misleading, those are really big identifiers to, if people start to bail out of your email list at a growing rate, then what that is really telling you as a business is that the information, the content we're sharing, its value is not being received well. And so we either need to adjust what we're doing, or we need to stop sending emails to people, or we're going to lose our list, right? Some of that though is rather a natural consequence of having a business, in that you're going to have customers, patients, clients that leave your business over time, right? If you're, we see this with lots of clients where, if you're a dentist, there is attrition. Some people move away, some people pass away. There's all sorts of circumstances whereby somebody might need to be removed from your list, and these are all legitimate things, and they don't actually tell you that you did anything wrong. It's part of business. But some misleading metrics, or metrics that can sometimes be misleading if the wrong person in the business is paying too much attention to them, I think, are things like delivery rates. There's a whole bunch of factors that can go into a delivery rate, and people get really hung up on that sometimes. Spam complaint rates, sometimes these can be really misleading, because when it's working properly, this is where somebody receives an email from you and they signify it as spam. There's actually a lot of people that accidentally, oftentimes like in Gmail and some of the other platforms, the spam button is right next to like an archive button or a delete button or whatever it may be within your email client. And so a lot of times spam doesn't even mean to be flagged as spam. We see this once in a while. So you want to make sure that you take that with a grain of salt. But again, the people that are really involved with your email program, that are managing it, they need to be watching this. And again, if it can be an identifier that you're not connecting with the people that are receiving the emails. List growth rate. Some people thrive on growth. They just want that growth number. Like, our list is growing at X number of recipients a month. But sometimes that's really misleading, because you want to make sure that it's actually the right people. You don't want to be buying lists for the sake of buying lists. You want to be making sure that you're attracting the right people, and that you're communicating with the people that care about what the information you're sharing. There's even something called inbox placement rate, right? This is the rate at which your emails reach a recipient's inbox. But it doesn't necessarily indicate the effectiveness of your email campaign. So there's a whole host of data that as a business you can track with email campaigns. But I would say, at the highest level, have your manager of your email marketing share the most important metrics to you. Again, if you truly care at that level, because sometimes you shouldn't even have your eye on that ball. They should be just the ones focusing on that, and you should be focusing on running your business and making sure that you're capitalizing on those phone calls and form fills that people are doing from your email campaign. But yeah, what are your thoughts, Ken? Paul?
Well, I mean, one thing that I think open rate is a little bit of a deceiving thing, because you can get false open rates, depending on how people's mailboxes are set up. And the other thing is, ultimately, can you track sales back to
Sure.
your email campaigns? Which can go to measuring click-through rates and conversion rates and stuff like that. But those are the things that ultimately probably are the most important. In my mind, you obviously need, like you mentioned, you need to pay attention to all of the metrics that are telling you whether or not your marketing campaigns are healthy or not, based on the user behaviors, and also, did somebody on your team upload a list that was 3 years old, and maybe they're actually really customers, and maybe they gave you permission, but it's an old list that wasn't cleansed.
Mm-hmm.
Now are your numbers tanking? So you need to be paying attention to all that kind of stuff for sure.
Yeah. One thing I would add is that, like, even though some of these
Mhm.
metrics are imperfect, because we live in an imperfect world, like just what you were saying about open rates, it actually goes both ways, right? Like some applications feed misleadingly high open rates. Some email applications actually give misleadingly low open rates because people are viewing their emails through a preview pane, which is actually not a legit open for some of those email clients, right? So but what I think is valuable in any of these metrics is trending, because here's where I think open rate can be really valuable if it's trending, is that all things being equal, you're on the same email platform, you're tracking open rates over the course of a year, 2 years, 3 years, and you see open rates dropping. Unless something dramatic has happened in the world that's feeding different information back to your system, it means that something, it probably actually means, like, this is where I would jump to the conclusion, is I would start to look at subject lines, right? Why aren't people opening our emails? Well, the subject line is the first thing they see before they open an email. So we need to up our game from a subject line standpoint. But if you're not tracking open rates, you'd have no idea if the subject line is a potential issue, right? So
Yeah.
and I think that's why it's really important to have people that know what they're doing to manage your email campaigns. The last thing I would say too, and it's really what you said about connecting marketing activity like email marketing with sales, is that this is where the importance of having a CRM integrated with email marketing is so powerful. Because I know you guys use the same CRM system that we use, and it's also our email blasting software. And we've used lots over the years, just as you have. But now when we integrate those platforms together, wow, like you can see everything about what a contact is doing, from SMS, email marketing, social messaging. Did they
Yeah.
come in through pay-per-click, right? There's so much information there. And without that 360-degree view of the contact themselves, man, you're, as a business, you're trying to connect these dots between different systems, like your CRM system and your email blast system, like a MailChimp or whatever. And it's really hard to do that unless you have an integrated multi-channel system.
Yeah.
Never use a preview pane. It's a vulnerability.
There we go.
It's a bad thing. But, Ian, something you said about, they're like these higher tier metrics and lower tier metrics, and that's a really good point. You have to understand what you look at, or what you're looking at, because when it comes to email, a bounce rate, it's pretty straightforward. Okay.
Yeah.
But that being said, there's also there's a hard bounce and a soft bounce. A soft bounce is maybe the mailbox is just full, and doesn't mean it's a bad email address. Now, if you're looking at Google Analytics on your website, bounce rate has to be taken in context. Because, we've talked about this before. Someone goes to your website because they want your phone number, and they get your phone number and they leave. Analytics is going to say that's a bounce, but it served its purpose. So you really do have to know what you're looking at. And that's, you kind of made that point in a different way, but that's something that people really need to be aware of.
Well, and just as a follow-up to that, Paul, it's a really good point. We had a client who we'd been managing their email list for probably 4 to 5 years. We'd been doing their e-newsletters, a bunch of other types of email programs. And suddenly we started to get feedback from our email delivery platform that they were just saying, hey, we've stopped your campaigns because your list is no good. And we're like, wait a second, our list hasn't changed except for adding some, as new customers came in, we added them to the list. And we said, wait a second. And so we started to dig into all of the hard bounces in this. It happened over kind of a 2-month period, but we started to look at the data, and it was a particular domain owner of a domain name, like a, Bell, and all of their subsidiaries, that was blocking emails. It was actually forcing a hard bounce to every single email that they owned a domain of. And so we wouldn't have known that, right, unless you had this metric. But we were able to work with the actual email platform to work through, it's actually your platform that's having an issue with this particular domain provider. And so we need to make sure that's resolved, because these are the same emails we've been using for years, and they are legitimate clients and they have opted in, right? So without metrics, you'd never know that. It would just kind of go into a hole. And
Yeah.
half the people in your list wouldn't be getting emails. So metrics are good.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. Next topic. And I guess one of the reasons why this bugs me is because, I always look for easy ways for our clients to help us, in the natural execution of their jobs, not to take over a lot of the marketing functions, but there are just so many different things that they can do to make their life easier, make our lives easier, because ultimately we need some information to be able to do our jobs. And so, user generated content is one of those things that I just don't think people fully appreciate how important it is and the power of user generated content. So, Paul, what are some strategies that businesses can use to encourage more user generated content?
Well, let me start by saying user generated content can be really powerful, but it's kind of a double edged sword, because if someone goes to your website and leaves spam comments, that's user generated content. It's not good user generated content,
Right.
but it needs to be monitored. Okay, so let's start with that. But some of the things they can do is, you can have contests and promotions, and encourage. We step back here. Reviews are user generated content.
Absolutely.
So encourage people to leave reviews. Okay. So, and encourage them. You can have some kind of incentive, a discount, a price. You don't want to bribe people, which kind of sounds like where that was going. But encourage them in some way, shape, or form. I'll leave it at that. To share their experience. If they had a good experience, and one of the best ways to do that is to ask for reviews. Have a process to ask for reviews, and we'll probably talk about that a little more later. And make it easy to share their experience, and whether it's social media buttons or, again, a link to write a review. I got an email from a business a little while ago that I had talked to, and this goes back to making it easy. They sent me an email. I had asked them for a quote on something. They sent me an email, and it was from an office person. And at the end of the email, it just had their name. And it's like, what are you, stupid? Your email signature should have your name, your phone number, your email address, even though, yes, you can click on reply. It should have your phone number, any way to contact you. But it was just an email with this office person's name, and that's it. That is not a good user experience.
Yeah.
And ask for feedback. This goes back to what you said, Ken, that we need information to do our jobs. And if you're a business, you need feedback from your customer, because a lot of times if you're doing something poorly or, irritating people, I'm not saying it's intentional, but they are more likely to just go somewhere else than to tell you. They're not going to tell you. So you have to have a way to ask for honest feedback. And, you need that. We talked about sharing the user generated content. We encourage community building. This kind of goes back to the first question for Ian about referrals. Encourage referrals. That in itself kind of goes into that community. You can, and creating online forums or groups. Depending on the size of your business, what you do, you could have a Facebook group, because I love Facebook. Provide. Everybody's laughing at me. Provide excellent customer service. That's a no-brainer. But again, it goes back to the email I got from this business. That is not good customer service. If I wanted to interact with you in any way other than clicking the reply on the email, I had to go hunt for it. That is not a good, that's really not good customer service. Exclusive content, that's sometimes easier said than done, but one of the ways you can do that, YouTube videos, how-to YouTube videos. If you're, and again, define exclusive content. Well, if your competitor, let's say you're an HVAC company and you have a YouTube channel and you have videos on how to program different thermostats and your competitors don't, I mean, that's not exclusive content in the whole scheme of things. But from a local standpoint, if your competitors aren't doing it's exclusive content. So, do things like that. Again, user generated content. Encourage, make it easy for people to share things. Sometimes you just have to pick up the phone and talk to people. Call some of your customers and ask them, hey, how did we do? Is there anything we can do? I want you to be honest. Is there anything we can do to improve the customer experience? Just ask them, and all these things will help foster brand loyalty, which is ultimately what you want. You want to be no matter what you are, if you're a landscaper or if you're a roofer, if you're a plumber, if someone has an issue, you want to be their go-to person. So those are some of the things that I would do.
Yeah. One of the things that, we work with a lot of home remodeling contractors. And again, we beg and plead for pictures and for project descriptions over and over and over again. Those things are so valuable. And one of the things that came to my mind is maybe you just set an incentive program to say, hey, we came in and we painted your house. If you give me 10 usable pictures, I'll buy you lunch, or I'll give you this incentive or something. But, because you're not getting it done yourself, your crew leaders aren't getting it done. We can't do it because we're not there on site. You wouldn't want to pay for us to do it. You're not paying for a professional photographer to go do it, although you might want to do some of that as well, for sure. You got to get it. You just simply have to get it, folks. I mean, come on. Even asking for reviews is so important. And I am still amazed at the velocity of most of the people that I've ever talked to throughout my entire marketing career about going and getting reviews. And that maybe is the single most powerful piece of user generated content that you could do if it's placed on the right, the right review site.
Yeah. And something you said about the pictures, and you said the crew leaders aren't doing it. I just don't understand that. If you're the business owner and your crew leader isn't doing this, you make it part of their job, or you go find someone that will do it.
Yeah. Or incentivize them to do it. Make it part of their performance appraisal and review process, whatever. But
yeah. And if I could add to that, I'm glad you guys talked about your own team and your own staff as being user generated content. Because as a marketer, and I think I heard this from you guys too, but as a marketer, one of the most compelling types of content that a business can share, and we track all the metrics, right? Talking about metrics, but we track all the metrics for social. And so we have strategic posts that we do that are kind of like table stakes for a business. You need to be talking about your business, your staff, your team, your events, your promotions, your products, your services. Like, absolutely, you should be doing that. And we can do that for you as marketing agencies, right? But the part that's like pulling teeth is getting the business itself to share posts that are the most engaging, which are, here's a picture or a video, even better, of our team having a celebration lunch because it's our 20th year in business, or here's Mary and it's her birthday today and we celebrated by giving her flowers and whatever, took her out for lunch. Or what you were talking about with the remodeler, like we have some clients in the same space that when we do competitive intelligence on what their key competitors are doing that are kicking it out of the park, time-lapse photography of a site, a work site, huge. Walkthroughs by your crew or by you as the business owner, or the team lead walking through a construction job, explaining what you're doing and how what you're doing is above and beyond what others do. Talking about your fall arrest equipment, of how you keep your employees safe. I mean, all of that stuff is like candy to people on social media. And the table stake stuff you should be doing, but this higher, we talk about kind of the layer cake approach. You got to be doing these other layers if you really want to make social media any value to your followers. And so, talking about metrics, don't just focus on the number of followers you have if you're not putting out good content. And if your team's not on board, it's probably because you're not on board. If you're not creating content, then how are you going to get your team to do it? So start from the top, create content of whatever makes sense for you to create content of, and build it into their performance review and their job descriptions, and make sure that they're doing it, or offer a contest to your own staff that whoever makes the most, maybe not the most, but whoever makes X number of videos or takes X number of photos on the job site gets entered into a draw to a baseball game or something, like a nice dinner or something like that, right? Which is incentivizing them. Yeah. I just think it's so big, guys. Sorry I went on about it, but I'm so passionate about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to bring it back to user-generated content, though, because that's ultimately where you get a lot of golden things happening, because now you start to get people who are championing your business. They're marketing for you. It's not costing you a dime. If you can get somebody, if you just painted their house, if you just ask them, hey, would you mind posting some pictures of maybe, on your social media sites? Because their friends are going to be completely different than your followers on your social profiles. So you're going to be reaching a completely different set of people. And those are probably your customers, much more so than the people who are already following your page for new business. So user-generated content, please help us. Please.
One last thought about that is, because you brought us back to the user-generated part. I would say too, because if anybody is a trade out there that's listening to us, and hiring is such a huge part of your business now, attracting good people is hard. User-generated content, meaning your staff generated content, getting them to share their experience of working in your business. Obviously, you have first right of refusal as far as using it. It's got to be good and it's got to be supportive. But that kind of content, if you're trying to attract more people into your business to be great team members, A players, you got to have that kind of content, because everybody knows the business can say whatever they want, but having real people talk about their experiences is just like having a testimonial, about what it's like to be your client or your patient. So
real people as opposed to fake people.
Exactly.
Okay.
AI created people.
Yeah. Well, I think we have time for one more question today.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we got a lot of questions. Do we want to do a part 4?
Yeah, we'll do a part 4. Yeah, I mean, as you can tell, we're grumpy people, and we have a lot that we are trying to work through here, folks. So
it's because we care. It's because we care.
It is because we care. I mean, I don't want to do this just to, I genuinely got into this business, and I love what I do because I want to help people. I love educating, and I love helping people, and I want to try to help them get the best bang for the buck.
Yeah, definitely. But that there's also some truth to you can't help people that won't help themselves, and that's kind of why we're doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Ian, last question that we're going to have today, and Paul, jump in as well. Because I think this is kind of user-generated content, a great strategy for it, and that is to use quizzes for marketing purposes. So, Ian, can you talk about maybe some of the best ways? Excuse me. Almost made it through the entire episode.
Here's a cough drop.
Yeah, I popped one earlier, but and actually, just I'm doing pretty good. But yeah, can you talk about quizzes and how businesses can use those for marketing purposes and why they're important?
Sure. Yeah, just to kind of give an idea to people what quizzes can do. So, quizzes are really just a smart I was going to say a smart form of forms, right? Like they can be graphical in nature, but they're really getting people to answer questions, and they can range from serious topics to frivolous topics. And if you've been on any kind of social media, especially Facebook, these are very popular, or at least they were very popular for quite a while, until people figured out that some of the people that were gathering information on some of these quizzes were doing it to fish for personal information, right?
Right.
And it was hard to tell the difference between the two. But some of them were just general interest quizzes, and then you share the results with your social network, right? So, I got 95% on this pop culture quiz, and then you send it off to someone. And you see this also with some of the embedded gaming within the social platforms, where you can do the same thing. So it's sharing results and the businesses behind it do it to garner greater exposure, but also to have some fun, right? Some of these are really fun. But from a business standpoint, you can use quizzes for a lot of different purposes. Obviously, lead generation is key and central to all of us when we're thinking about our businesses. And you can use a quiz to be a smarter way of gathering information when somebody comes into your website, or it could even be on social media. Through some of those, you can do some fairly smart questions on there. But the key to it is that they're smart enough quizzes to understand that if somebody comes in and they say, I'm looking for this product or service, you can ask them probing questions further down that path about that particular thing. So it's not just, enter 400 form fields and then we'll say, great, we'll provide you with a quote. It's more trying to tailor the quoting experience to them so that you can then ultimately, as a business, say we can serve you or we can't serve you. So this is where we've used quizzes a fair bit. It's a form of pre-qualifying customers, especially in the home services space, is that you don't want, say you're a window and door company, and you're not profitable when somebody just wants one window, because that happens. People get a window broken. They might want to reach out to you to get one window replaced. But if that's not profitable to you and you can't sustainably provide that service to people, then you need a way of kind of weeding those people out. And a quiz can be a great way to do that, where what service are you interested in? We want windows. How many windows do you need? We want this. Where are you located? And if they're outside your geographic area, that's another key one as well, is that you just say, sorry, we're not able to serve you. One of the other ones I've seen really valuable from a quiz standpoint, that's a little bit more flexible, is turnaround time, right? Trades are under the gun for turnaround times, and a lot of people aren't very happy about the turnaround times because trades have just been so overwhelmed by the amount of work, and sometimes not having enough team members right now. They're harder to find. And so, including in there, a drop-down menu that says, how quickly do you want this solution provided? 1 to 4 weeks, whatever it is, right? 1 to 2 weeks, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, I'm okay if it doesn't happen for 3 months. And that can help you basically score people and then spit out a response that's appropriate for you and for them.
But real quick, going back to your broken windows example, as a business, have a referral partner network. Someone calls you and says, I only have one window. We don't do that, but call this person. That builds a good
great point. Yeah. Great point, Paul. I mean, we do have a window and door company, and they get a lot of calls related to, I need glass replaced. They don't do glass replacement. They do full window replacements, right? And so having a referral partner in the local area where you could send them business would create a great referral partnership where they could send you full window replacement prospects. And
this all feeds together.
Yeah. Yeah. Some other things, though, that you might want to consider using quizzes for are audience segmentation, right? Even if you have an audience, you could kind of pose it as a quiz and start to dig deeper in what are their interests. Do all your clients like golf, or do they prefer something else? Just trying to dig in so that the whole purpose of doing that is, yes, it's interesting to them. Yes, you can give an overall like, hey, 85% of our clients play golf, or you create kind of this tribe mentality. But for you as the business, understanding the interests of your clients is so powerful. Content promotions, right? You can use quizzes as a content promotion. It can also help you determine people's understanding of what services and products you have, or understanding what you could even use these as a form of just like almost like a focus group, right? Do these people really understand what we provide?
Right.
And it's almost like a reveal, because they might be like, oh, I didn't know they did that. And there's a lot of other ones. I mean, this could go on and on and on for a while, but social media is probably the biggest one we see. Personalization, right? You can use quizzes to personalize your marketing efforts, even your services, all sorts of things. Any other thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I think I mean, segmentation's huge,
Yeah.
because now you can drop them into email nurture series. You get them to volunteer. I'm interested in whole house window replacement versus, a single window replacement. Okay, well, now I have an email series that I can send to you that says, well, here's what you need to think about hiring the right window contractor. Here are the right types of windows. Here's why we're different. Don't just take our word for it. Here's what our customers have to say. And,
Yeah.
and now you're nurturing people through. The other thing about quizzes is, like you said, if, a lot of times if they're just fun and simple, and you don't ask for a bunch of information, but you get enough to help you segment
Yeah.
them and whatnot, they're going to share the results. And when they share those results, that could be one of the more viral things that may happen for your business from a marketing perspective. So that's a pretty cool thing as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, absolutely, I think you've got to be prepared to do the follow up. I mean, just having the quiz um, is step one. Step two is, what do you do with the information you get once you get the quiz?
Even your example there, Ken, was really good in that so you've kind of got your ideal bucket, and then you've got your less ideal bucket as you're segmenting people out. But
Right.
it's even an opportunity, right? Because if you wanted to, as a business, you could basically nurture people on the ones that have said they don't need a lot of windows, right? Maybe they want 3 or something, and that's
Right.
still not your ideal. You could have an email campaign that actually talks about why you might want to consider replacing all your windows, for energy efficiency, for style and curb appeal. There's a lot of reasons, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a neat.
Well, and even like for us, I mean, we could have a quiz that basically helps us channel people into the right solution.
Mhm.
So somebody, based on how they answer a particular quiz, maybe what they fall into is they need help from me as a marketing guide, through StoryBrand, and they need to work on messaging, but they're going to go handle a lot of this stuff themselves. Other people maybe, just I don't even know where to start. Okay, well,
Mhm.
that's going to tell me that maybe we need to put them into the bucket where we're talking about marketing strategy and really working on that. And then there are going to be people who, based on their answers to their questions, are going to be they're already doing a pretty good job. They just need some tactical help here or there in 3 or 4 or 1 or 2 different places. And if that aligns with us, great. If not, at least maybe we can give them some resources and some information so that they can, go do it themselves, or find the right solution. So you can channel it. It doesn't have to be, oh, sorry, you're not a client, or, oh, yeah, you're a great client. You can actually
Mhm.
channel them to the different paths of the solutions that you already have to offer.
Yeah.
And I think Ian touched on this, is use them to get customer feedback, because if it's a quiz and it's kind of anonymous, they may be more honest than if you call them up and say, hey, where do we screw up? They may not be comfortable, but on a quiz, they may be more inclined to be honest, to say, you really screwed up here. You could do this better. And as a business, you really want that feedback, because if you don't know where you're falling short from a customer perspective, you can't improve your process or system or whatever it is.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Awesome. Well, I think we're going to wrap this one up for today. And the good news is, for all of you watchers and listeners, you're going to get to experience another one of these episodes where we talk about more stuff that's been bugging us. So that'll be coming up here in a couple of weeks. So make sure that you come back. And Ian, why don't you take us away?
Yeah. Until next week, folks, keep calm and mark it on.